Hello, Internet. My name is Ken. I am a stage 4 colon cancer survivor. I was diagnosed back on Halloween, believe it or not, of 2022. So that has been about 3 years and 5.5 months ago. I have been doing well after a lot of surgeries and a lot of treatments. I didn't expect to still be on this earth at this point. Initially, I was given a diagnosis of 2 to 3 years. I was told that I was not a candidate for surgery. I was told that I was purely palliative, put on the standard of care treatment, which is Folfox, Fulfury. Those of you that are familiar with colon cancer know how that works. So immediately I was on treatment back in November of 2022. Because of different complications, I developed endocarditis. I had a blood infection. I had issues in my large intestine that were generating some infections. So I ended up in the hospital with endocarditis, which shredded my mitral valve. And it took another year and a half almost, or a year and a couple of months before I was in the condition that I could have a mitral valve replacement. In the meantime, I had a total colectomy in January of 2023, which left me with an ileostomy and a stoma bag. I also had a 2/3 liver resection in April of 2023. They took about 67% of my liver, but that removed so much of the disease. So again, I feel very fortunate because in the beginning, I had a very serious diagnosis and my prognosis was not good. But things happened, and I'm leaving a lot of the story out because it's very long, but things happened that actually allowed me to get treatment that I was not expecting, including surgical intervention. And so much of my disease was removed. And then with chemotherapy, targeted therapy treatment, we got a lot of the residual disease. So basically by the end of 2023 and early 2024, I still have stage 4 cancer because it's there. There are tiny lesions that pop up in my liver and my lungs, and we have to stay on top of that with treatment. But the vast majority of the battle happened back in that first year or so, a year and a half, if we include the mitral valve surgery, which was in February of 2024. So anyway, I wanted to spell that out. You know, not often, but occasionally I get comments on my videos, people saying, hey, you know, tell us more about your story. And so I wanted to kind of do that general overview, so you don't always have to go back to the very earliest videos and file through everything. I've got 70 something videos that detail my cancer trek. And if you're interested in all of the ins and outs and the ups and downs, then you can go back and watch those videos. But I did want to bring those of you who are newer to the channel up to date. So here we are. It is April the 13th in the evening. Thunderstorms outside. In fact, we have tornado warnings in southern Minnesota. This is the time of year when in Minnesota it can be 40 degrees one day and 80 degrees the next day, and thunderstorms in between. So that's what we're dealing with right now. As far as my own situation, I think the last video I posted, I shared with you guys that I was having some tough times. I had low blood pressure, I was dehydrated, I was dizzy, I was fatigued. I had kind of a rough time about 10 days to 2 weeks ago. but we did get much of that dealt with in terms of fluids, magnesium. I went into my oncology clinic and they kind of bolstered me with drugs and fluids. And fortunately, oh, and I may have mentioned this again in my last video, but my cardiology team also cut some of my heart meds down because some of those meds, valsartan and metoprolol, they suppress my blood pressure and the just the general pressure in my heart. So we cut those drugs so that my blood pressure would come up a little bit. All of that has worked, and I'm actually feeling pretty well. I did have my 6th cycle of treatment last Wednesday, so 5 days ago. We did decide to cut the dosage, basically because of those serious side effects that I was dealing with a week and a half ago. Excuse me, my voice is messed up. So I had half of the panitumumab that I normally have. The panitumumab is the monoclonal antibody therapy. It's a targeted therapy, which is really the primary thing that's attacking the residual disease and little lesions in my liver and lungs. Anyway, we did 50% of the panitumumab, and then we did 75% of the 5-FU, which is the pump that I bring home. They give me a bolus, which is, I don't know, it's something like 350 milliliters directly into my port, and then I go home with the pump. But that whole dosage was 75% of normal. So in other words, I had my 6th cycle of treatment last week, but it was a lower dosage than my previous treatments have been. And that is just to deal with the fact that I've had some extreme side effect issues. I don't know if you can see, I don't know, it's hard on video to see, but again, I've told you about my scalp is just covered with scabs. Yeah, I've had some very serious skin issues. I can't tell you the number of lotions and creams that I've been prescribed. I can't even keep up with all of them. But I try to do my best and I try to moisturize. But the good news is, you guys remember a year ago, I was dealing with horrendous fissures and splits in my fingertips. I have a few of those, but I am very happy to say that this time around, I've been able to manage. I can still type. I can still do stuff on my phone. I put on a rubber glove on my right hand when I do dishes, which helps. But, it's still hard to open boxes and Tupperware. I'm screaming. People hear me yelling, because my fingertips are very sensitive and I do have a few fissures. But again, I would say it's 30% of what it was this time last year. So I'm very grateful for that. Looking ahead, I am headed to Mayo on Wednesday, which is day after tomorrow. I have my 2-year follow-up with cardiology from my mitral valve replacement. So this is a totally different deal. I'll be there for half a day. I've got echocardiogram, electrocardiogram, chest x-ray, blood work, and a consult with my cardiology people. And they will basically assess me and take a look at how the cancer treatment is affecting my overall heart health, and also just take a look at whether my replaced mitral valve is doing its job as far as ejection fraction and just the general health of my heart chambers, which any of you who are familiar with heart issues, you know what I'm talking about. So that's coming up, and I think I'll stop here. I just wanted to update you guys, and I really felt like I wanted to do that kind of synopsis at the beginning of the video for those of you that are new to the channel, and there's quite a few of you. So again, thank you to all of you who follow along and send messages and encouragement. and, just keep tabs on me. I appreciate it a lot. It's been rough. It always is rough when I'm going through treatment, and I don't know how much more of this we're going to do. Again, the cardiology appointment is this week, but then the following week on the 22nd, I'll be back at the oncology clinic here locally, and we will decide whether we will go forward with a seventh treatment or whether we will say enough for now. So that remains to be seen. Anyway, thank you. As always, I appreciate every one of you who take the time to check in with me, and I appreciate it so much. Love to you all. More later.